Welcome to historic Martinsville Speedway in Virginia. This tiny paperclip-shaped oval is the shortest, tightest, and arguably most competitive track in all of NASCAR. This weekend it plays host to stop number 6 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Now, rain has pushed back our schedule today. We're scheduled to be qualifying here momentarily, but we're able to get one practice session in, so qualifying will now not go until about 3:40 Eastern time. And take a look at the top 10 in this session. No surprise at Mark Martin at the top of the speed charts. But how about Juan Pablo Montoya? And look at Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has led the most laps here twice in the last 5 races. Work ongoing down in the garage areas. They're now getting ready to qualify here later today as we check in down there with Dave Burns.
And Doc, in that graphic, you were able to see some of the numbers these guys put up in terms of numbers of laps run here in the very first practice session of the weekend. An hour's practice that teams usually reserve to get ready for qualifying. Well, they were in the 60s, and Jimmy Johnson, championship leader, was in the 70s in terms of the number of laps he ran. That's because a lot of these guys were working on race setup because they're not sure they're going to get a chance to run tomorrow at all. The weather forecast calls for rain most of the day. We'll see if that happens, but if these guys do get that rain, they've all prepared very well today by running lots of laps in the opening practice. Weather right now, beautiful, and qualifying very important here at Martinsville. Shannon Spake.
Dave, while the green flag doesn't drop until Sunday afternoon, most drivers will tell you that the race actually begins today. And that's because out of all of the tracks that we visit on the circuit, the qualifying session here at Martinsville is probably the most important. 2 reasons. Number 1, on the racetrack, track position is so important. It's a half-mile track. If you start in the back of the field, you're already a half a lap down once the flag drops. And then, of course, on pit road, there is one pit stall that is very, very good here at Martinsville, and that is number 1. And, of course, that belongs to your pole sitter. 7-time champion, Martinsville champion Jeff Gordon said the driver and the team who has that pit stall on Sunday will absolutely have an advantage in this race. Doc?
Thank you very much, Shannon. So it is a big bonus to qualify well here at Martinsville Speedway because track position and pit position, as you said, very critical. Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry Punch, and as we told you, we were coming on the air for live coverage of qualifying here at Martinsville, but because of rain, qualifying now will not take place until about 3:40 p.m. Eastern time, but we do have some bonus coverage for you. We're going to be headed out to Memphis, Tennessee, where Marty Reed and the guys are standing by for live coverage of the NASCAR Nationwide Series practice. And Marty, there are 5 drivers going back and forth doing double duty here as well as in Memphis.
Well, you're absolutely right, Doc, and the big question will be exactly how long those guys will take to get here, and we may not even see them until tomorrow at race time. Remember that we qualify at 10:45 a.m. and then race later tomorrow afternoon. So as they're out on the track right now practicing, we could tell you that Mike Bliss is the quickest at 22.90 seconds. And there is the 11 car that Bliss has taken to a second place finish twice this year and done very well in the 5 cars that he has varied his appearances. And the 16 car with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., one of our substitute drivers right now. Of course, Matt Kenseth is scheduled to drive that car. In fact, for more on the double duty drivers, let's check in with Jack Arute.
Justin Lofting, however. Let's go back upstairs.
Okay, we got a little technical glitch with your microphone, Jack. We'll tell you that the double duty drivers, the situation with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is if he starts that car tomorrow, he would lose his rookie status, and they want to save that for next year. So right now, the line of action will be that Stenhouse will practice the car, and if Matt Kenseth does not qualify it, Stenhouse will qualify. But if Matt can't make it in time to race, well then James Lofton, the brand new ARCA champion, would come in, start the car, then Ricky would jump into the ride and get laps and get the experience, but it wouldn't ruin his Rookie of the Year status for next season. So that's what Jack was going to tell you, and right now he is doing okay out there on the track. And as we see Stenhouse pulling back in the garage, we're going to bring in Rusty Wallace and also Randy LaJoie. Randy, you've won here at this track, and it's really asphalt, but as you look at that surface, it doesn't look like asphalt.
Not at all. They say it's a blacktop racetrack, but it's white.
And that's one thing this racetrack does. It doesn't have a lot of grip. They have a new tire here. These guys are going to be driving very hard all day long tomorrow.
And Randy, that new tire you're talking about is very important right now too. That's a tire they ran at Indianapolis Raceway Park. We call it ORP out there. And the tire was developed up at New Hampshire. Some of the new development that came forth through the Indianapolis Motor Speedway problems a couple of years ago. But the drivers love this tire, and it is the softest tire they've run here in the last couple of years. So the drivers are liking that. And if you remember, a couple of years ago, we had a lot of cautions at this racetrack. Goodyear thinks that this new tire is going to help that problem.
Brad Keselowski, as he continues out on track, 5th on the speed charts right now, 23.08. And there is Mike Bliss, who is leader in the clubhouse so far. 45 cars have already been out to practice here in this first session.
Yeah, they're all getting a lot of track time. I really think some of the cars that went out early were at a disadvantage because the track was so green right here. I don't agree with some of the guys that went out early. They kind of roughed their tires up, really abused them on this green racetrack. But right now, the times are starting to get faster and faster. We're watching Bliss right there. He's got a lot of momentum, this team does. Like Marty said earlier, 2nd at Dover, Delaware, 2nd at Charlotte last week. This team's doing real well with Bliss behind the wheel.
I talked to Mike this morning, and he was 6th in points, got released from his ride, been ride hopping. This is a great team. They have an alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. I said, Mike, how old are you? He said 44. He goes to the same hair doctor you do. He got the comb forward.
It's already started.
If you're going to start right now, we're going to get on him, boy, I'll tell you. What do you think about that, Marty? He's already roughing me up, just like these cats are going to do on Saturday afternoon right here in Memphis.
That's right. They're going to be a little leaning on each other. There's Jason Leffler, 5 top 10 finishes in 6 short track races this season, and he right now is 6th on the speed charts at a 23.10 second lap.
This team really wants to win. These guys have the greatest chance this weekend, they feel, because the technology that they don't have, that they're not affiliated with a Cup team, Rusty, it gives these short guys, the guys that don't have a lot of people, a lot of technology, it gives these guys a chance at a 3/4 mile racetrack.
Well, as Jason pulls it on in, Toyota can clinch the Manufacturers' Championship this weekend by finishing ahead of just one other make in the race. So that's one big thing for Toyota, as they're all but sure of doing that either this week or in 2 weeks when we race at Dallas. We're going to step aside for a moment here at first practice. Bonus coverage from Memphis Motorsports Park. Still about a half hour away from Cup qualifying over in Martinsville. They got put back by the rain, so bonus coverage here from Memphis Motorsports Park as its first practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Mike Bliss still atop the speed charts. Did it back on lap number 6 of 16 at 22.90 seconds, 117.86 miles an hour. This is a 3/4 mile short track, and we talk about a lot of leaning going on. Well, we've got 5 double-duty drivers. Let's get an update on one of them, the 16 of Ricky Stenhouse. Jack Arute, try it again. All right, thanks, Jack, and we'll keep it tabs on that. Let's come up topside here and bring in the 2 handsome guys that are going to be doing battle and rubbing elbows like we're going to be rubbing fenders down there. We talked about the conditions of this surface. There's one other change that I found out when I was strolling through the garage area earlier this morning. They've also changed the rear end gearing, which is going to change some setups.
Absolutely, a lot of gearing. The gear doesn't help the motors slow down the race car, so they can probably use some more brake. They're going to have to put some more right rear spring in it to get the car to turn, to keep the center of the corner speed up.
Well, there's going to be some different things, just like you said. The gears can affect all that. It'll affect the brakes. It'll affect many things, and the teams know that. They usually use the engines to help slow these cars down to protect the front brakes, but that will be an issue. But the other issue they're going to have right now, they got this new tire we talked about earlier, which is a really good tire. Other thing they want to do, they want to get these cars qualified very, very well, guys. They need to get them up front, because here at this track position is everything. We've had problems before with crashes, back to their new tire. Goodyear thinks that new tire is going to help a lot of that problem.
Well, you're looking at the one car and you're saying, well, who's in it this week? It's Landon Castle, last year's Rookie of the Year in the series, who almost looked like he dropped off the face of the nationwide earth because we just haven't seen him out. He's in this ride, and so far he's second on the speed chart.
Well, this race car was the fastest thing here last year. They didn't win the race with Bliss in the car. This is a great race team. They have very fast short track race cars, and that's something that Landon's going to have to do. I think if I was Landon, I'd go for broke. You better look out. I want to win practice. I want to win the pole. I want to win the race.
Well, Randy, you're exactly right. And a lot of these guys are driving for a job. This, in my mind, is one of the last opportunity races of the year. If they get an opportunity to get in a car and shine, they need to do it because these car owners are looking for some drivers. Unlike the past, there's a whole lot of drivers and very few rides. These guys all want to get in those cars, and they're running out of time right now. So this cat right here needs to drive his butt off and try to show off for somebody.
Well, they think the owners, too, want a driver with a little bit of money.
Bliss, Castle, and then it's Johnny Chapman, which is normally a starting park. In fact, he's turned a total of 4 laps. He's third on the speed charts. Stephen Light is fourth. Brad Keselowski fifth. Jason Leffler is in the sixth. Let's check in on another one of our double-duty drivers. And that'll be the 60 with Augie Vidovich behind the wheel. And there he is. And again, we see the pink colors for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Hey, this is a great opportunity for Augie, Marty. It really is. This guy is a good short track racer. He's got an opportunity to fill in for Carl Edwards right now. And he's another one who knows he needs to make the best out of it. No mistakes out there. Just get the car driving good. Don't overdrive it. Don't show off. Don't crash it. That's not what he's here to do. And in the past, he's done a good job.
He did this last year. I think he's done this the last couple of years for the 60 car. Augie, you see Augie driving around here, walking around the pits all summer long, saying, hey, give me a chance. Give me a chance.
You see the track right now, how gray it is. I mean, it doesn't have much rubber on it whatsoever, and they're trying to get the track rubbered up and try to get the cars handling better, because right now, unless you get a lot of rubber on these short racetracks, it's going to change big time as this race goes on. So what they're learning now is not a lot at the moment.
And we've got caution on the track. As you can see, we've got a car sort of turned around and coming out of the turn 4 area. It's the 92 of Willie Allen. I couldn't see the number at first. There he is. He comes across what will be the start-finish line here at Memphis Motorsports Park.
Marty, I tell you, turn 4 at this particular racetrack, I see a lot of action off that corner lot. The guys can pick the throttles up really early in the middle of turn 3 and 4. A lot of times they get loose off at turn 4. Looks like Willie just lost it off turn 4. No homer, no file, nothing's tore up on the car. But he'll just have to tighten that car up a little bit when he goes back out.
Well, and if he hopefully did not flat spot the tires, because remember, you only get 5 sets for the entire race weekend. So while we're down for this mini spin, we'll step aside for a quick break here at Memphis Motorsports Park and our bonus coverage of practice here in the Nationwide Series as we get ready for qualifying over at Martinsville in about 24 minutes. Back here at Memphis Motorsports Park in Millington, Tennessee, just a little northeast of downtown Memphis. This is bonus coverage for race number 32 of 35 in the 2009 NASCAR Nationwide Series schedule. And what we have is a stoppage because of a spin by Willie Allen. We can tell you this bonus coverage is leading into NASCAR Sprint Cup Series qualifying over at Martinsville, and that will be coming up at 3:40 Eastern Time, which means about 21 minutes from now. While we've got a chance, let's check in down in pit road area and back in the garage area. There's Rick DeBrule.
We want to talk about, Marty, the fact that we've got some drivers making their debut this weekend. One of them, Richard Boswell III, is running for JR Motorsports. He's been running in the junior program for late models for this year, and they finally decided they could get him into one of these rides. You see him right there in the number 5 car. He's taking over the number 5 car. He is the seventh driver who's taking over this car. I talked to him earlier today. I said, is it intimidating coming here to Memphis and doing it? He said, no. I said, really, this is the best place. He says, I'm used to late models. I'm used to going on short tracks, and this is the best way to go. He did did get 50 laps in at Florence, so he got a better feel for it. He said the thing that was unusual for him was realizing you really don't have that, you don't have the kind of driving you do with the late model. You actually almost have to drive slower in to make more speed out. So the 50 laps he had at Florence, he learned a lot, and now he's ready to put it to use. By the way, new crew chief for that team this week instead of Brian Campy. Now they've got Tony Uri Jr., and according to Richard Boswell, he says Tony's got a lot of experience. I'm really happy about that. Jack?
One thing I can tell you is third time is the charm, all right? Let's talk a little bit about the fact, as you alluded to, Marty, that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is doing most of the driving chores for the Matt Kenseth number 16. But there is one youngster here that got the call earlier this week to stand by the name of Justin Lofton. Now, what Justin is going to be pressed into service to do is only run the car if Matt Kenseth doesn't make it for the race. Why? Because Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wants to preserve his rookie status in the Nationwide Series for next season. So Justin will get 2 laps today in the second practice session. And then he'll have to spend a restless night watching the Weather Channel. Guys?
All right. Thanks for the update, Jack. As you can see, cars back out on track, and Mike Bliss still atop the speed charts. When we get a chance, I'd love to go back to the story on the 5 car, because here's Richard Boswell II getting his first ride, and all of a sudden, you know, there's a crew chief change between Brian Campy and now Tony Uri Jr.
I think he's a lot more comfortable with Tony Jr. due to the fact that Jr.'s been around the late model shop. You know, I mean, this is a late model kid that runs Junior Motorsports. Willie Jackson, which is Dale Jr.'s stepdad, runs the late model operation for him. And Richard has done a great job for the late model teams, won a bunch of races, and now he has a shot. I'm glad that Junior gave the kid a chance.
Well, Richard's got to have a lot of confidence with Tony Uri Jr., just like you said. I mean, the guys are all family. They all know each other over there. He's got to feel really comfortable jumping in this car with Junior as a crew chief. And, I mean, really, that's a really big-time crew chief for this number 5 car. This kid's got to be a little bit humbled also and excited also to have a guy that good tutoring him along in his first race here at Memphis.
And he's 7th right now on the speed charts, 23.12 seconds at 116.75 miles an hour.
Marty, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see some big upsets this weekend, especially from drivers like this, different short track drivers. You got to remember, these cats all cut their teeth on these short tracks, and this is a very short, framming and bamming, a lot of body contact style track.
Let's check in on Stephen Light. He is currently 4th on the speed charts, 22.97 seconds. That's about 700 slower than Mike Bliss.
I do believe this is the last. He won an event here, and this might be his last ride with Childress. So there again, he's going to be up on the wheel saying, okay, guys, this is going to be my last chance for the year in a very good race team. I'm going all out.
I'll tell you, we talked about it last week in our NASCAR Countdown show about these drivers driving for a ride. And like I said, there is not many cars. There's a bunch of drivers out there. You see Light go high right now. Looks like that car's not handling good, but they're all trying to show off. They're all trying to impress somebody. And like we said earlier, this is one of their last chances to do it. They got to get it done.
Ironically, all 3 cars that went by there, including the 32 of Brian Eichler, the 6 of Eric Darnell. We've talked about his fact that he may not have a ride next year with Roush. They don't have enough funding right now. And the fact that Stephen Light himself, you know, everybody's trying to find work.
Yeah, I talked to Richard Childress yesterday. He's got a single-car nationwide team right now. Used to have a 2-car team, but he told me the funding is hard to find, but he feels good with the 29 car.
Well, I think he's switching to one of the truck events, too. I think he's going to run a truck for his grandson next year. And here's 2 guys, 2 Roush teammates. Eric has done a great job all year long, whether it was in the nationwide car or truck. And here's a kid that might be on the outside looking in next year.
You know, I watch Eric Darnell in that 6 car, like you were talking, Randy, at Milwaukee, Wisconsin this year, guys. You remember that? He went out there and set on the pole position, led a lot of laps, run strong. So he's a really good qualifier. And every time I see him in this 6, he's always fast in practice. And there's a talk that maybe he might not be back with Roush next year because of lack of sponsorship. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's hope he's going to get that team shored up financially.
Well, you can see his first DNF at 15 career races was last week at Charlotte. He's 11th on the speed charts right now, 23.23 seconds.
That's one of the things that Eric does so well is he finishes the races. That's one thing as a young driver you really got to focus on at least finishing the race.
So as he continues to turn laps, going back out on the track is the number 11 of Mike Bliss, and we'll tell you that he is still our fastest car in this first practice here at Memphis Motorsports Park. Behind him, it's Landon Castle, and then Chapman, Light, Brad Keselowski. That's your top 5 here at Memphis in our bonus coverage. Don't forget, Cup qualifying coming up in about 15 minutes. Back here with our bonus coverage at Memphis Motorsports Park of first practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. We're looking at Stephen Wallace, 10th right now on the speed charts, 23.21 seconds. Lost a lot of ground last week in the hunt for that 5th and final spot. In fact, he's actually in jeopardy of dropping to 7th because Mike Bliss has been coming on so strong.
That's one thing NASCAR did this year. I guess to save some money, they combined the Nationwide and the Truck Series banquets, and now only the top 5 out of each are going to be up on the stage.
I want to remind you, coming up next in about, let's see, 13 minutes by my watch, it'll be Sprint Cup qualifying from Martinsville, Virginia. Doc and the gang is standing by as they got pushed back a little bit by rain, and that meant some bonus time for us, so we could show you some of this first practice session where Mike Bliss is still leading the speed charts, and 48 of our 50 entries have practiced here in this first session. Let's check in with Rick DeBrule. He's caught up with the man who's fast.
Indeed, on the top of the speed charts, and we were talking just before practice, and you said you thought this was going to be fast. You thought this car was going to be great right out of the box. You're right.
Well, I mean, Paul Wolf and I, crew chief on this Ride Makers Toyota, we ran good here, and Armando Fitz's car, so you know, you run good at Richmond, you're going to run good here, and they ran pretty good at Richmond. So, yeah, it's good. You know, we're just kind of, you can't run a long time here because the tires wear out. So you just got to make big, smart moves, and we're just kind of nitpicking it right now.
Yeah, I was listening on the radio. You're not taking anything for granted. You're still trying to find whatever that extra thing is out there, right?
Well, yeah, certainly. You never have a car that's perfect. So I just want to make sure we can get a little bit freer because it generally tightens up here.
Right, and you're still looking for Ride for Phoenix.
Yeah.
If anybody's listening.
Well, that's a couple races from now, so I haven't worried about that yet.
We'll worry about today. Mike Bliss right now on the top of the charts. Jack?
Well, Mike Bliss was talking about taking good care of his tires. We caught up with some of these new tires that Rusty and Randy were talking about, and it's one of the things that I'm noticing in this first practice session, fellas, is the fact that everybody is making, as I like to call it, judicious use of these new tires. As much as they want to know what the grippier tire will do on this worn-out racetrack, they realize they've got another practice session this afternoon, and when you're limited to 5 sets of tires, you don't have unlimited sets of Goodyears to strap on the car to do your research and dialing in. So listening in on the radio and watching the number of cars that are out there, I think it's going to get really hairy in the final practice session today. Right now, everybody's being, as I say, the word for the day, judicious.
Thank you, Jack. As out on track right now, we check in on the 88 of Brad Keselowski, still 4th, 23.08, but again, we don't expect much movement now because these guys have been on these tires for a while, and we need to start looking at the laps that they're currently turning in comparison to everybody else. He's dropped off to like a 23.58 on that last lap, and the only person that's been faster of that top 5 group has been Mike Bliss.
Well, that's one thing that a lot of crew chiefs do, the lap trackers. And this place Brad really likes. He had a chance. He had to drive a Germain truck a couple years ago. Ted Musgrave had to sit out, and that was pretty much his coming out party. So, you know, Brad loves this racetrack. He did very good in the truck. I mean, you better look out. These guys are going to be tough.
But he hasn't had the results to speak for the way he likes this track. In 3 races in the Nationwide Series, his best finish is 9th back in 07.
Marty, this particular track is a very old school track. It's real rough. The surface is really abrupt. It wears tires real hard. And a lot of the drivers here, this reminds them of some of the old tracks they used to drive when they were growing up. And so they're going to have to get these cars with a lot of mechanical grip. The tires are going to have to stay on these cars for a long time. And that's what they're doing right now. The fast speeds that we saw earlier are gone right now. They've slowed up about a half a second, and now they know this is what they're going to have in the race, and they got to get the car handled like that.
You know, there's one other thing that could motivate Brad. There's another $75,000 out there. He's won it once already in that Nationwide Dash for Cash. And Marty, you could explain it a whole lot better than I can.
Well, the Nationwide Dash for Cash is the 4 standalone events. We've already had 3 of them, and the money kept rolling over through the first 2 at Nashville and Kentucky, and we got to Iowa, if you remember, and it was this guy right here, Brad Keselowski, who took home the $75,000 by winning the race. Well, there is still $25,000 up for grabs this race, plus a year-end points championship bonus of $50,000. And here is the battle there. Kyle Busch leads Brad Keselowski by 5. So the big challenge for Keselowski is if he can win the race, he runs the table. He will literally take all $150,000.
Well, I wouldn't put it against him because Brad has been flying. I mean, every track he goes to in this 88 car, he's been strong. And now Brad, you know, just like all these Rusty's drivers, they cut their teeth on these short tracks. So I'm going back to what I said a little while ago. This is a tough old short track, and I think Brad can get the job done here.
And we should point out there are 2 drivers that are not eligible for the Nationwide Dash for cash. It would be the 99 of David Rudiman, and it'll be Matt Kenseth if he makes it back to run the 16. And the reason is there, you must be a regular full-time driver on the Nationwide Tour.
That's one thing I think Nationwide does great. There's our in-race reporter coming up for tomorrow, Jason Keller. Jason Keller was a young gun before they had young guns.
Do you know this will be his 490th start? Second on the list will be your brother Kenny Wallace. He'll celebrate number 450 on Saturday.
I'll be darned. I didn't know that. That's incredible. I know Kenny will be thinking about that. Like you said, Randy, that's our in-race reporter, Jason Keller. We'll be talking to him throughout the race. And he is another veteran short track racer. This is a guy that's won a lot of short tracks around the country, really good at what he does there. And I'll guarantee you, he's happy that he's at this place.
Well, if you want to talk and ask a question to our driver, Jason Keller, you saw it right there. Go to ESPN.com, key in the search of Ask the Driver, get your question in. What Rusty may be asking it to Jason tomorrow during our race coverage.
That's one thing, Rusty. These guys are going to be working all day tomorrow. This racetrack is a short track. They're going to be sawing on that steering wheel all day long.
Oh, they will. It's going to be physical. I mean, a lot of the drivers I talked to this morning are real concerned about crashes. You know, this track in the past, now last year was pretty good, but the year before, what do we have, guys? Like 23 cautions?
We had 25, which was just one shy of the all-time record set at Hickory back in 1996 at 26. It felt like the 24 hours of Memphis, if you remember.
Well, that's on their mind, that they don't want to crash at this track or getting involved in a crash. And, you know, going back to those tires again, that's one thing they're pretty pumped up about. This is the softest tire they've had here in 2 years, which is going to get them better grip. Because in the past, they were spinning out in like the first 5 laps. We just couldn't get the momentum in this race.
Well, as Jason pulls in, we can tell you that on the speed charts, he is 20th right now at 23.37. How about Matt DiBenedetto? He is making his series debut. He has 2 Camping World East Series wins, and let's get more on the 18-year-old from Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, the big debut. They did go and test for a day at the Motor Miles. Talking with his crew chief, he was saying, you know, Matt really asked good questions for a guy. You know, he's obviously having to come to grips with learning this particular car, but he says he's asking great questions. One of the battles, of course, in this situation is you got a new guy out there. You don't want to give him too much information. You don't want a situation where you're really overloading him. So Dave Rogers, the crew chief, is saying, you know, I'm going to give him enough information to kind of feed him, keep him going without doing too much. And, you know, it's interesting. We were talking about, okay, what's the goal today? You know, I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? And Dave said, we came here to win.
Tell you what, Rick, that's a good place. I mean, he's come here to win. There's no doubt about that. And he's a short tracker, thinks he can get it done. But something you said a little while ago about the Motor Mile, that's a short track that a lot of guys have tested at. And that was probably a really good move, bringing him over here to that little short track to get ready for right here at Memphis, Tennessee. A good call by the crew chief.
Well, I tell you what, if they had flames coming out these exhausts on his car, well, that'd be pretty cool.
Well, there is Matt, and some of you may remember he made a mini debut at Dover, and it wasn't very auspicious. This is what happened. He was taking over Denny Hamlin, and it was really an interesting situation. He wasn't overdriving the car.
No, not at all. I talked to Matt because later in the day, he'd come back to almost win the Camping World race, which my son run 3rd in. I said, Matt, what happened? He goes, Randy, I didn't fit in the car. I didn't like the steering wheel that Denny had. I took the steering wheel off of my Camping World East car, put it in, left the racetrack, got on the racetrack, and the steering wheel got caught against his seat belts, unhooked his seat belts, and made him crash.
Okay, that's one of the most embarrassing moment deals, right? When he grows up, he thinks about that. I go, man, next time I'm gonna get the steering wheel fitting right. This cockpit's gonna be just the way I want it. No more excuses like that.
Well, that's something that race car drivers don't pay enough attention to. You know, something as small as a different steering wheel can mess your day up.
All right, so there's Matt in the garage area out on track. Mike Bliss, and here's the big number. He has now run 25 laps. He is still the fastest car. His last lap, 23.36 seconds. The next fastest car is a half a second behind. They've got themselves a ride right now. Stay with us. We're back with more.